In the past few weeks, people have taken to social media and WhatsApp groups to complain bitterly about a hike in the price of ginger and garlic in stores. Investigations by bodies such as the Competition Commission are underway. However, in the case of ginger, there is a global shortage and demand has also skyrocketed due to people using it as part of COVID-19 preventions and treatment. One person who believes that the government should not interfere too much with this pricing is Professor Jannie Rossouw of Wits University's Business School. He joins us now. A very good afternoon to you, Professor.
Good afternoon, Quera Petse.
Now, Professor, is this outcry over the price gouging or price hiking by consumers actually justified?
Well, in short, the ginger and garlic markets are very small. The demand for these products suddenly shot up because people believe they can use it in prevention or treatment of COVID-19. And if the supply and demand forces change, supply goes up, demand goes up, supply remains the same, the price will respond. So suddenly much more demand, no change in supply, and as a result, the price went up. Surely the government has more important things to do than to try and figure out what's going on in the ginger and garlic market, which are in any case not essential products.
And talk to us then about price control and why you think it's a very dangerous thing to get into.
Well, the problem with price control is that if the price is set by government lower than the market clearing price, there will simply be a shortage in the market. So people will simply not be able to buy these products at these controlled prices. So by the looks of it, the prices will be lower, but the supply will simply dry up and people will not be able to buy these products. So the price that we see in the market is where supply and demand forces meet one another. If you interfere with those, shortages will be the consequence.
Now, I know, Professor, that you don't think that government should interfere, but can the National Consumer Commission actually investigate food price increases of this nature?
Well, the National Consumer Commission can investigate anything that it wants to investigate. My belief is that the resources of that nature should be used for much more important investigations, like who stole money with government contracts, with protective equipment, who stole money with COVID-19 prevention contracts. Surely that is of much more importance for the South African government and for the South African public than trying to figure out what's going on with the price of ginger and garlic. But unfortunately, this government is completely incompetent. It's lost its ability to govern this country. And then you get the situation where if governments can't do the things it should, it start doing things it can, like investigating garlic and ginger prices, rather than to bring people to book who stole big amounts through state contracts.
Now, Professor, then let's just look at the difference between protected foodstuff versus staple foods, because you mentioned that garlic isn't even a staple food.
Yes, indeed. But in general, I'm against price controls, because price controls inevitably lead to market distortions. It leads to situations where people can simply not buy the products they want to buy.
Now, Professor, another thing then is the issue of the price, the consumers rather, who are complaining. Now, some people say that if it's consumers who perhaps are trying to get to afford a staple foods as opposed to luxuries, then those kinds of situations should be investigated. Not this situation that we're speaking about right now, where those who are complaining about the prices of garlic and ginger are people that actually can afford staple foods in this current pandemic situation.
Yeah, I know that is the view of my colleague Lumkile Mondi, and I understand his arguments for that view. My view is that the government must do much more in investigating corruption and the stealing of our hard-earned tax money than to try and concern itself with some food prices. The government can sort out corruption in this country. All the other things will follow, because it will also have put the government in a position to take better care of poor people who have difficulty in buying basic foodstuffs.
And Professor, just like in the situation that the country's in, we're under the state of national disaster. You've mentioned that government shouldn't be wasting money investigating prices of ginger as well as honey. How do you think they can actually better spend the budget that they have under this particular state of national disaster, especially to help those who have been poverty stricken and those who actually have lost their jobs to the pandemic?
Well, for a start, they can buy more COVID-19 vaccinations. They can allow the private sector to import COVID-19 vaccinations. They can stop trying to control everything that moves. I often get the feeling that in South Africa, this government's focus is if something moves, control it. If it stops moving, subsidize it. Leave it to market forces and do your function as a proper government, which amongst others implies that you have to rid the system of corruption. We are suffering, all South Africans are suffering corruption. We pay our taxes and we then see how the money is stolen. The government should focus on getting rid of corruption. And the obvious way to do that is to publish all government contracts for public scrutiny. Use resources to publish all government contracts rather than to try and investigate ginger and garlic.
And just lastly, Professor, on the issue of actually allowing the private sector to be able to procure COVID-19 vaccines independently, do you think that'll help actually create a more efficient way to roll out the vaccine to those who can afford the vaccines that are of a higher percentage efficacy?
Well, it will ensure more vaccines coming to South Africa. It might lead to higher efficiency. And if you have higher efficiency in certain parts of the economy, surely it gives the government a better opportunity to focus on those people who are not in a position to get vaccines from private procurement, thus taking care of those less fortunate in our economy who cannot take care of themselves. It will help release government resources to the government to focus on that group.
Well, let's leave it there for this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Professor Jannie Rossouw from the Wits Business School.